It becomes second nature after a while. You know, yes, cops, you know, listen, when we put the track system into place on the summonses, right? Probably a little bit of a reason why my summonses have dropped so much is because now it's the computer, now it's the ticket system, tracks, and now it's also our T-stop, which is catching all the demographics from the stop. So there's 3 steps to writing the summons now. Instead of, in the old days, you just write it out on paper, then it became electronic, then it became electronic 3 times.
Okay, well, I'm happy about the body cams. Congratulations on that. That wasn't an easy task, I know that. And I do believe, like you said, the statistics show that hopefully not only will it de-escalate, but it will help the police as well as our community.
Yes,
I think it'll help equally.
it's good for all.
All right, and this is on a lighter note. Do you notice that your summons for women is like half for men for driving? In fact, I'm taking this home. All right. Yeah.
I'm not going to comment. On the advice of counsel.
That could be a loaded, that could be a
And my
loaded
wife.
comment right there, so
I'm
we're
just-
gonna,
yeah,
we
I'm
are
very-
gonna leave it right
I
there.
was impressed with that statistic.
I don't even want to offer my reasons why, but I'll just leave it. With the body cameras though, even before I give you the questions, are there times, I know that when we're having this hearing, like when we're looking at it, that there may be times when an officer may not turn on a body camera. Is there, like, you know, what happens if he comes up to something, he has his body camera on, and the people don't want to be filmed? Does the resident have, or whoever was stopped has the right to say, stop recording me?
No. So, but again, it's sensitive in what we're doing. Yeah, obviously, if it's an arrest, that's not happening. If it's a violent domestic, that's not happening. If it's the sensitivity of an aided case, and there's not someone not being clothed and everything, nobody sees that video but the officer. And then when he puts it into that area, we then decide if it's something that needs to be removed from the system. But we're very sensitive. Give you an example. Officer down in the 4th precinct pulled a car over. Parked in a dark park at nighttime. We know what that couple was there. So they were there, and the officer walked up to the car, and he stepped back, and he said, ma'am, please, after you put your pants on, please step out of the car. And then the individual stepped out of the car. That individual was carrying a loaded handgun. And we ended up in a foot chase through the woods, about a good mile and a half down through the Inwood area. Our cops could have got seriously hurt. He lost tactically control, being respectful to the woman in the car. So again, that's an example. That camera stays on. That camera's not going off. And even in the transport of the prisoner, it does not go off. It goes off once the individual is placed into the holding area of the precinct, because that is then on the camera.
Other cameras, what if they're going to question somebody? They're walking up and like they see a group of people and they, you know, just see what, maybe like something was going on, maybe just passing by. Would they have the camera on, or is that something that they would wait till they interact with the people?
Camera's on. As soon as you're walking up, so I walk up and I see 5 people as I turn the corner I want to speak to. I push the camera on. It goes back 30 seconds. So if I miss something, it's on the camera. Not the audio, because it has some protections to the rights of the officer, but that 30 seconds of video behind is captured.
And then, do we have enough body cameras? I mean, so I guess, is there any delay in getting them? I know sometimes with this supply chain and chips and all that other stuff. Does that impact the availability of these body cameras?
We were down to December 1st getting the last batch, and we rolled them out. We had already trained them though, so it was good. We didn't have to bring them and train them. It was a little bit more work to get it out, but we got them all out there up and running by December 12th. Everybody in the department was up and running.
And we're ready for like, are we going to have a new class going in soon?
So we have a class that just went out. They have their body cameras with them. They're not officially out to the 15th of February, but they're out on field training. They all have body cameras. The new 40 that are in the academy right now, they don't graduate till May, and they will have body cameras before they go out.
Okay, and we keep extras, like just in case if they get broken? Or
Every station house has 15 extra that they keep on hand, because someday they may come in, and look, the cop forgets to charge. He's responsible to charge it at home and come in with a live camera. Let's say you had a power outage that night, the camera didn't charge. There's no excuse to say, oh, my camera was dead, so I couldn't turn it on. No, you can go change your camera out, you get a new one.
Okay, I see. All right, and then on the mental health, You were saying this, so we have mental health teams that are assigned to each precinct?
Not each precinct, they're set up in 4 quadrants in Nassau County. And they're doing their normal visits during the day. But if, who's ever got when the call comes in to 911, if somebody's at the office, they'll answer the phone. If they left the office to do something, it forwards to the call phone. And that person will receive it, says, look, we're responding to a call for a mental health crisis, or we have somebody on that's suffering through a mental health crisis. We think it's a non-police response. Would you like to speak to them? Yes, put them on the phone. We stay on the phone, we don't disconnect. So that first couple, until MCOT says, we got it, and then we disconnect.
And that would be the 911 operator?
That's
that receive
correct.
the call. And the 911 operators have the actual sheets that they follow with the dialogue that they're supposed to use in assessing whether or not it goes to mental health or...
That's correct. They have a worksheet that they work with, right? It is flexible. Obviously, it's different for different people on the questions. But you heard the call in the city of New York, unfortunately, when the 2 officers were shot. Apparently, the question wasn't asked, are there any weapons in the house? And that we asked that question when we responded to these things. This is a 20-page PowerPoint training that all of the trainers went through again, with the help of the experts. We didn't create this. The county workers helped us create this to put it together with the experts' advice on some things.
And I see that with all the data with all the stops that we make, so it's the data that you have within this report, the percentage of how many people were stopped, who they were, men, women, whether or not it was, black, Hispanic, white, or Asian, or whatever, correct?
Correct.
When we stop, like you were saying these 3, I know that the officers do give, if I get stopped and I'm now issued a ticket, like maybe my real light is out or whatever it is, or I went through a stop sign, the officer actually then gives a printed computer statement or something, whatever, like almost like a receipt, right? To let me know why I was stopped, okay? Do they do it like if they don't issue a ticket, do they also give that person a reason why they were stopped even though they were not given a ticket?
So every officer, when they go up to the car, in that their camera is recording, they will announce who they are, the reason for the stop, and then ask for their ID. If they choose to give a warning, that person will get it. If that person feels that this officer was disrespectful, not only will the camera show the interaction, but the car is GPS, so the GPS will show that that car was there at that date and time. So they say, I was stopped on Smith Street, cop never gave me his name, and I don't know what the car number was. Okay, what time is it? 1:30. We bring up the GPS of the car. This is the car that stopped, it was 1:03. We bring up the camera. Here he is announcing who he is, or he didn't, and then we have a problem.
So you only give that receipt when somebody, if they get a ticket, they're given the reason why they were given that ticket.
That's right.
Correct? All right, thank you. Let's just say to Freddie, you said you had a question?
Commissioner, how you doing?
Very good, sir.
Thank you for your presentation. Thank you to your men and women in blue for everything you do. Always, thank you. My question is, one of my questions has to deal with what Legislator Ford was kind of just talking about, the tiered response that's been implemented through this reform plan. So, my understanding is you have 3 tiers, right? And tier 1 would be information to the community about mental health programs, call centers, etc., right?
Correct.
And tier 2 would be where the 911 operator asks if there's danger to the complainant hurting themselves, right? Is the person violent or aggressive?
Right.
And if the answer to those are no, then a mobile crisis team goes out.
No, if we're in a tier 2 situation, it's a dual response.
Dual response. So tier 3 would be a police response.
Correct.
Without the.
We notify them, when they get there, but we're not waiting because there's a potential injury to themselves or another.
All right, so just going back to the tragedy a couple of days ago in the city, with the unfortunate murder of Officers Rivera and Mora. If that phone call came into the Nassau County 911 operator, who would have been dispatched?
Police.
Without the mobile crisis team?
Without mobile crisis, that was a domestic. Domestics are handled by police, not mobile crisis.
Okay.
Mobile crisis are only there in the mental health cases.
Okay. My understanding is that the reform plan requires the Nassau County Police Department to evaluate the tiered response.
Correct.
Has that evaluation Is that ongoing, has it been conducted?
It's ongoing because, as I said, we didn't really get started till November. We had some bumps in November. In December, we started running seamless. We had 108 responses by mobile crisis as a dual response or a transfer over. We're gathering all that data going forward, and we'll know it. Obviously, in 1 month, there's no data to really analyze.
Now, in the situation in the city a couple days ago, I think you said that, correct me if I'm wrong, when the 911 call went in, they said that there was no weapon on the scene?
No, but my understanding is that the question wasn't asked, is there a weapon at the residence? Now, I don't know if the individual would have answered it yes or no anyhow. So,
Would it have mattered?
yeah,
For the
it's just,
response?
it's a heightened alert, you know, cops, again, I don't like the money, I'm not going
No,
to
no.
comment on it. So it's just a response. It's always nice to know if someone will tell you this. Many domestics we go to, they'll be, yeah, there's a hunting rifle in the house. We want to know that. We want to, and many times if we've been there before, that's already recorded in our 911 system. So it'll say, we've been to that house 5 times and all fight for aggressiveness and whatever. We know what we're getting ourselves into.
But in terms of who's dispatched to the scene, would it have an effect on which tier the call would fall into just because there is a weapon at the scene? So let's say there's a hunting rifle at the scene, but there's a determination made that there's no danger of complaining, hurting themselves or violent act, etc. But they do say, when you ask them, is there a weapon at the scene? Yes, I have a hunting rifle. Is there still a chance that the police will not be dispatched to that call?
No,
So a
No.
police officer will be dispatched to
That's
that call
correct.
because there is a weapon present?
no, because it's a domestic. We handle domestics. If the call came in for a mental health call and they said there's a weapon, we're going. If there's a violence, we're going.
I'm not talking about just domestic, just in general now.
Correct.
Forget about the case from the city. If a call comes in where it's determined that there's a mental crisis unit needed, and it would possibly fit into tier 1. We're not, you know what I'm saying, where the police wouldn't necessarily have to be sent down, but then you're told there is a weapon at the scene,
We're going.
you're going. Right, so that's an automatic.
No matter what, we're
Okay.
going.
All right, and then my last question, I want to make sure I'm reading the chart right. So in 21, there were 10,272 total arrests.
That's correct.
Okay, do you have the numbers in terms of, out of those 10,272, how many were released with an appearance ticket under new bail reform law?
Yes. So I can give you, this number will be a little higher because of, we include our villages. So 11,005 arrests, let's use that number right now. When it comes to bail reform, they were released on cashier's bail 4,043 times, released at arraignment with no bail. That was once we get them to the courts let them go with no bail, 2,237 times, and released by the judge 3,419 times. So out of that 11,000, 9,699 people were released without bail.
What's the last number again? I think you did the math for me.
9,699.
So roughly 1,300 were held on bail
Okay, yes, yes,
out of 11,000.
that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Legislative Rhodes?
Hi, Commissioner, again, thank you so much for your presentation and for the outstanding work the youth department does on a daily basis. Just as a follow-up to that, do you keep those statistics in comparison to statistics from before bail reform? In other words, are you able to articulate, and if not today, are you able to get us, if 1,300 were actually held on bail out of 11,000 arrests, what is that by percentage in comparison to what existed before bail reform?
I'm going to say, of course, we can get it because the data exists somewhere. It's not going to be an easy task because we didn't collect it we didn't look at it that way. But we don't know. I know how many appearance tickets I give at the station house, but when they go to arraignment, that's kept by the courts. So now I have to rely on the courts to have kept that record. And so it's either, again, that data exists. It's a task to get.
Okay. I didn't know if for comparison purposes alone, the department actually was maintaining those statistics. I guess the answer is no, but you can get it.
Right, correct.
Okay. And of the 9,000 and change, 9,900, I think you said it was?
9,699.
Of the 96, 99, how many rearrests were there?
1,111. And 694 became warrants.
And the warrants are based upon non-appearance in court?
Yes,
So that's
Yes.
after the, and my understanding of the law is that first they have to be given a warning by court personnel that they didn't show up at their court appearance?
if you miss your court date, you get a phone call that says you missed your court date, we need to reschedule your court date, and then reschedule your court date.
So the 694 would be the people that received that phone call, didn't show up at their second appearance, and then a warrant was issued.
For the most part, yes, yes.
Getting back to the police reform proposal, part of the, I believe part of the proposal was community contact and resident surveys. Were there surveys done in individual communities? Or were we in the process of doing it?
I'm sorry, what?
So my understanding is that the police department was required to conduct surveys of communities, victims, and complainants. Are we doing that through our community outreach, or are there physical surveys that are being done?
There's no physical surveys being done, but we are going out and speaking to our public, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Let's say